In Motor Week this week, the UK's answer to Japan's dominance of the sports utility market, Ginny Buckley drives the new Freelander, while Mike Rutherford discovers the weird-looking but oh so practical and remarkably cost-effective Suzuki Wagon R+.
Say the name Land Rover and what images spring to mind? Rugged off-road vehicles that will last a lifetime. They'll get you into and out of most things that you could ever encounter. And they're just perfect for the country girl. Most definitely not for the girl around town. Are you with me on this one? Well, a question for you. How do you account for this then? This is the Land Rover Freelander, Britain's answer to a line of Japanese lifestyle vehicles, a trend started by Toyota's RAV4 and followed up by the Honda CR-V. There are three versions in the Freelander range. There's this, the hardtop, which comes with a 3 or a 5-door option, and then a 2-door convertible Land Rover, a Land Rover to have fun in. There's no doubt you'll look the part in this. After all, it came from the same design team responsible for the MGF. But looks are really only part of the equation. So what's it like on the road? Up here in the cabin, the driving position is really wonderful. You've got this fabulous, commanding view of everything that's going on around you. And the whole feeling inside is one of real solidness. Everything's chunky, it's rugged, it feels extremely well built. But don't get me wrong, I have to say, it doesn't feel too boy's own or too macho. It actually, would you believe, has an interior to die for. This is the 3-door version and it's just wonderful. There's use of colour, it's nice and bright, there's these gorgeous exposed rivets, nice bits of paintwork all over the place. I can't believe it. Land Rover have discovered a designer who realises that the style of a vehicle shouldn't go dramatically downhill the minute you open the door.
Given this was going into a sector of the market that Land Rover hadn't been in before, we wanted to create something that was thoroughly contemporary and modern, but at the same time it had to recognise its heritage through the execution of certain detail cues rather than its overall form. Some of them are obvious, other ones are quite subtle. Things like the castellations in the bonnet, the actual clamshell bonnet itself, the very upright nature of the front end, the very equal glass to body relationship, but I think most importantly the overall robustness and solidity that make it unmistakably a Land Rover.
So it turns heads when you're off doing the shopping around town, but can it hack it when the going gets tough? Obviously missing here from the inside of the Freelander are those multiple gear levers, you know, the low gear ratio set that you expect to find in a Land Rover. In this, you're left to the mercy of electronic traction control. And believe me, it works absolutely wonderfully. It's astounding what this thing can do. And on the way down, well, you need to get your vehicle fitted with the optional hill descent control. It comes in at just under £1,000. All you do is hook this down, engage hill descent control, and you let the anti-lock brakes do the job for you. Here goes. Fingers crossed. Feet completely off the pedals. All you need to do is steer. And it's amazing. It works. Thank goodness for that. What it's doing is keeping the speed at a constant 5.9 miles per hour. It works out what kind of bumps and jolts you're going over and compensates for all that. I don't know how it does it, but it's incredibly clever.
Hill descent control is an adaptation of the anti-lock braking system that we've applied to Freelander. Because we haven't got a low ratio gearbox, then one might think that the control in an off-hill, downhill descent mode might be quite tricky. And we've adapted the ABS system such that by a useful, easy flick of a switch on the gear lever, we're able to enable this new technology called hill descent control, which uses the ABS system to brake the vehicle's speed down to a predetermined level so as we get full control in an off-road environment, either in first gear going down hills or in reverse gear.
This grinding sound that you can hear is the hill descent control just firing into action. Apparently there's been some complaints from some of the dealers that have driven this vehicle that they found it a bit irritating and annoying. Personally, I really like it. It reminds me that the technology's there and that it's working for me, and in situations like this, that's an awfully big relief. All the technology that's fitted to the Freelander is necessary in a situation like this. It just couldn't cope with it all without it. But if all you're going to do is drive the vehicle around town and maybe up a few country lanes, I suppose you could say, well, why do we need it? I mean, 95% of people that buy off-road vehicles never take them off-road. But what you've got to do is look at the bigger picture. If it's made to withstand and to cope with these kind of conditions, it means that it's going to be extremely well built, it's going to last longer, and it's also going to be a lot safer in everyday situations. You know, I don't remember attacking mountains like this in the Honda CR-V. Still, if you want to have a shower when you're at the beach, then I suppose it would be very useful for that. It's a shower, a real shower. Oh, I'm having so much fun today. The Freelander has a multitude of accessories, body kit and styling extras, so you can personalise it to suit your tastes. There's over 200 in total, all designed by Land Rover themselves, which is quite unique. The standard kit, however, is a bit miserly, but there are a couple of rather nice touches. Like this one, a remote control button opens the rear window, perfect for when you're shopping, maybe you're hemmed in and you need to get that bag in the back of the car. And then a nice added safety feature is that it will only close again with the key, so you have total control over it. No danger of getting the children's fingers trapped in that. And how about this for space in the back? There are estates on the market today that can only dream about having this much room. Now this is the 3-door and it comes as standard with these 2 individual seats. The 5-door has 3 seats, but you can get them as an option on this if you've got a few children that you need to carry around with you. And speaking of children, on those long journeys when they're bored and driving you absolutely mad, this will come in handy. A power point, they can plug in their games, and there, you won't hear a peep out of them for hours. Peace and quiet, wonderful. And just see how easily the rear seats fold down, giving you even more room. Look, even I could do it, first time.
Freelander is a lifestyle vehicle, but it is a true Land Rover as well. 2 of the areas where we pay particular attention to whilst we're developing Freelander was its on-road capability, its on-road performance, its leisure style and its impact on the customer. But also very, very important for us as well was the Land Rover heritage, the credibility of the Land Rover mark and the off-road prowess of the vehicle. The vehicle is very, very different from previous Land Rovers in lots of respects. The body in white is a unitary construction design. We haven't got beam axles on the vehicle at all. It doesn't carry a low ratio box. But the way we've applied new technologies to the vehicle and adapted the systems gives us all of the off-road capabilities that we look for in a true Land Rover product. We've captured the essence of what we tried to deliver when we were working on the concept of the vehicle. And it almost looks like a classic even before it's got launched. I think it's got tremendous longevity as a product. As far as its durability and longevity as far as performance is concerned, then we've tested it and we've tested it and we've tested it. And we've completed so many rigorous miles and so many abuse tests on the vehicle that I'm absolutely confident it is going to stand the pace of time.
Sometimes there's an advantage to being first, but sometimes it's better to wait. And Land Rover have played their cards brilliantly. They've waited and they've watched as the East has moved into the market. And then they've come up with something that feels far more solid, more rugged, is without a doubt far more capable, and is also more gorgeous, both inside and out. But as they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And right now, this is mine, and I love it.
After the break, Mike Rutherford and his Suzuki Wagon R+. The British-based team, attempting to set a new world record for driving around the globe, left London on October the 1st. The Frontera World Challenge team has since crossed 3 continents and 13 countries. The record rules state that only driving time across a landmass counts towards the total. The clock stops during sea and air crossings. Well, since they left, they have now completed more than 2/3 of the total distance needed and is running about 10 hours ahead of schedule. The team is aiming to set a record by driving their Vauxhall Frontera more than 18,000 miles around the globe in less than 30 days. And with a task like that, as you can imagine, they've had their fair share of problems.
Believe it or not, I'm looking for a little bonnet stay, which is that size in this big box. So come on, Nigel, give us a clue. Where is it?
Finding small parts would be the least of their problems. The Frontera has been sprayed with an insecticide, methyl bromide, during its passage from India. The team haven't been told, and Gary Sowerby has been taken sick in Western Australia.
Well, I mean, I was sick yesterday. It was like a hangover with no drinks, and then today a bad headache. And so that's when we started to think, well, maybe there's something more to this smell than rotten food in it.
The record bid moved ahead of schedule after a dramatic 89-hour sprint across Australia, with the team driving virtually non-stop, taking turns at the wheel and sleeping in the car. The Frontera Challenge team then completed a one-day drive across New Zealand's North Island, travelling from Auckland to Gisborne, one of the 2 towns on opposite sides of the globe that must be passed through to complete this record drive. From New Zealand, the Frontera was air freighted to Anchorage, Alaska, in preparation for a 5-day trek across North America, including more than 1,000 miles of treacherous, ice-covered Alaska highway. Next week, more details of the Frontera World Challenge team on Motor Week.
Well, this is what we like. Something different, something that breaks the mould, something that's not your average Euro box on wheels. Some people might argue it's a Japanese box on wheels, but whether you like it or not, you've got to admit it's very, very different, and it's going to be on sale in a showroom near you for £7,250 very soon. David Farquhar, an old friend of the station, tell us about this car. Last time we spoke at the Frankfurt Motor Show, you were telling us about the new little 2-seater convertible, the Roadster from Suzuki. This is a car about half the price, around £7,000, very much for families, the car about town.
This is Wagon R Plus. Wagon R Plus is a derivative of the original Wagon R, which was Car of the Year in Japan 3 years ago.
Suzuki are famous for their 4-wheel drive cars. Is this a 4-wheel drive or a conventional 2-wheel?
This is conventional 2-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, 1 litre, 16-valve engine, lots and lots of punch, lots and lots of space inside. It's very much in tune with environmental requirements of today. It's low on cost to buy. It's got a very healthy miles per gallon. It's got lots of room inside. It's got the room and space inside of most conventional saloons.
The problem with these things in the past is that they've been pretty underpowered. They've had these horrible little engines which I think were really designed and built to get round Japanese legislation, but weren't particularly user-friendly for Brits. But this car doesn't have one of those horrid little 600cc engines, does it? It has a real 1 litre, I think about 64 horsepower, something like that?
64 horsepower, top speed of nearly 90 miles an hour, and quite, we think, spirited performance.
50 miles per gallon.
50 miles to the gallon.
Or thereabouts.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's saved by the bell or disturbed by the bell, but we'll worry about that later. You can edit that bit out, Pete. Well, the first thing you notice when you climb into this car is that it's got an enormous amount of headroom. I'm probably about average height, I guess, about 5'10", but if you were well over 6 foot, you wouldn't have any problem at all in this vehicle. Very surprising, the height inside. The layout is pretty conventional, looks like pretty much every other Japanese car that's ever been on the market, but the main thing is that although this car, as we've said, looks a bit like a dinky car from the outside, when you're inside it really is true to say that there's plenty of room in here, and it feels like a mid-size car rather than a city car. You could believe you're on the inside of a, I don't know, a Nissan Almera or any other Japanese car of that ilk, a Toyota Corolla, for example. So nice big car feel on the inside. Driving wise, well, you do have to work this gearbox quite hard to get any performance out of this 1 litre 16 valve engine. About 64-ish brake horsepower, and so it doesn't pretend to be a performance car by any means. It is very much a city car that can be used for the occasional motorway journey. This vehicle, the Suzuki Wagon R Plus, I think they need to do something with that name, it's a bit long-winded for me. The Suzuki Wagon R Plus is half the price or thereabouts of the new Rover Mini, and that I find incredible. It's half the price, but it certainly ain't half the car. Is this a car that you can put on the motorway, that you can drive seriously with a family, a couple of kids on board perhaps? I mean, is there the room for the couple of kids? Will they be comfortable, the kids in the back?
There's plenty of room, plenty of alternative ways to use the seating. All the seats recline, they fold flat, they can be folded flat in half to accommodate more luggage and fewer people, and so on. It's a multi-use, multi-activity car, this new Wagon R Plus, and we think it's going to be very popular, particularly at these prices.
Well, I think that's the key, isn't it? Because, well, I think there are two issues here. One is people are going to either love it or hate it, aren't they? And I think even those that hate it might say to themselves in a funny sort of way, I want one, I've got to have it. It's so ridiculous, it's so weird, it's so oddball that there's something strangely appealing about it, even if they're not particularly pleased by the aesthetic appearance. I mean, it's almost irresistible, isn't it? Just over £7,000, brand new car, 3-year warranty, one of the best warranty packages in the business, in fact. Amazing value for money.
It is quite superb value for money, and I think the thought that has gone into the design of the interior, with lots of spaces for the sort of things that everyday motorists have, particularly when you're carting the kids round. You need lots of space, lots of hidey holes, lots of accommodation for all those awkward sized bits and pieces. And so a great deal of attention has been paid to that in the interior of this car.
There are still restrictions of sorts on Japanese cars coming into Britain. Will there be enough products around to satisfy demand? It's all very well getting people excited about this. They're all sitting there thinking, oh, that sounds good, £7,000, brand new car. But will they actually be able to get one?
We expect to import around about 2,500 of these in the first full year. Now that is a very small quantity. It's a small quantity simply because we are bound by import restrictions, by what we call the voluntary restraint agreement. But as you know, Mike, we are already making cars in Europe. At the moment we're not making this in Europe, but we're making Swift at our factory in Hungary. And there's a possibility in the long-term future that if demand is there, we may be able to make that in Europe for Europe.
Well, like I said, not the world's greatest car to drive, but you wouldn't expect that anyway. 1000cc city car for couples or maybe for small families, but really very much the car about town rather than the motorway car. But it does the job, and it does the maximum speed limit and a little bit more. So in that sense, not too much to complain about. But I think, you know, for a lot of people, how this car drives and how it handles and how it goes through corners is very much a secondary issue. It's the user friendliness of the car, the size of the car, the price of the car that will appeal to the most. And there are some very nice little touches. How about that little tray under there for all your goodies? You know, if you have to leave something in your car, and I don't recommend that you do very often, but if you do want to go out and you don't want your mobile phone with you and you do want to hide it somewhere in the car, what better place than that little sort of letter rack? And there you have it. That could be a rubbish bin. You can see in my case, this is really what I consumed over the course of the weekend. We've got lolly sticks in here, cans of drink, cartons of drink, crisps. That's the sort of junk that I end up with at the end of a weekend in my car. It's really embarrassing, this. But the great thing is that you can just lift that out. I mean, you could use this for your shopping, for your junk. There it goes again. I tell you one thing that would drive me nuts about this car is this silly little warning device that makes this horrible noise every time you leave your key in the ignition and have the door open. I think we can work out, honestly, that we need to take our keys with us before that warning device tells us, but everyone to their own. Well, that was the Suzuki Wagon R Plus. I'm still not too sure about that name. It's a bit long-winded, isn't it? But I am pretty sure about the car. Yes, it looks bizarre from some angles. I think it's not offensive, but we've seen some amazing reactions from people on the road today. And if you are one of those people that wants to turn heads, well, forget about your Ferrari 355 or your Porsche 911. This will turn more heads than a Porsche, I can tell you. I'm not sure if you're going to get the right sort of comments and the right sort of admiration, but if you want to be noticed, this is the car for you, believe me. You will not be able to drive around inconspicuously and melt into the background. You will be the focus of everybody's attention. It's that kind of car. It's also a cheap kind of car. £7,250. You cannot argue with that price. We're talking about Japanese design, Japanese build quality. We're talking about a 3-year warranty. And for that sort of money, really, it defies belief. That's very, very good value for money. And after they ship those cars all the way from the Far East, I can't imagine there's going to be too much of a profit margin for anyone in this buying this car. This, half the price of the Mini. This, a 3-year warranty. The Mini, 1-year warranty. No contest. Got to be the Suzuki.
Troubled manufacturer Kia has secured a loan from the government-owned Korean investment bank to secure its immediate future. When put into receivership in July, rumours of a takeover were mooted, but this has been denied by the Korean government, who effectively have a 30% majority stake now. They claim that their stake in Kia will be sold to the public once the company is profitable. Audi have just released the first official pictures of the handsome A6 Avant. It will be available in the UK in late spring '98 with 5 engines, including a new 2.5 V6 TDI. And BMW have at last given us all a glimpse of the new 3 Series saloon. The completely new, slightly larger 3 Series will be available here in autumn of next year.